Hi everyone, so firstly thank you all so much for joining us this evening. My name is Claudette and I'm the Communications Manager here at Legal Vision. And we're so excited to be joined tonight by 5 panellists to talk about content, code and culture. So a few housekeeping, as a great demonstration was shown, the toilets are here to my left-hand side. And this evening we will be tweeting using the hashtag LVCCC, so please, any questions, thoughts, heckles, but please don't, we have sensitive feelings and we need. Please hop on Twitter and certainly engage with us there. So we were thinking tonight about how we would explain why this event all came about. So we all have ideas. I have ideas, I know everyone in this room has some great ideas, some better than others. My housemate made pasta and popcorn last night in one pot. That was not a great idea. So some of us have even taken a step forward into commercializing that idea, whether it's starting our own business or even trying new things at work. But how do you actually take that business or that idea to the next level? So you'll all likely have a lot of questions tonight. How do you find a tech co-founder? How do you promote your business? What culture are you trying to establish in your business, in your company? And if you have a blog, how much content should you produce? How often? Is SEO the dark arts? Is Google Professor Snape? Everyone gets 10 points to Gryffindor. If anyone got that Harry Potter reference, it's the only one I'll make tonight. So, in short, I'm so grateful to welcome on behalf of Legal Vision, Elle, Justine, Jess, Nick and Angus to answer all of your questions this evening. Each speaker is going to introduce themselves by answering where are they from, why they love creating content or code, and content is absolutely expanding to campaigns, social media as well, and what is your greatest screw up? In the culture of being a tech startup, I'm sure we've all heard this bandied about a lot, and we want to celebrate trying new ideas and sometimes messing them up royally. Afterwards, when we wrap up the event, we are really hoping you all take advantage of speaking with one another. Startup founders, you might meet your CTO, and marketing teams, you could hatch some amazing new content partnerships with somebody else. And if you're struggling for a conversation starter, share your screw up or say hi. So with that, I'm going to start with Elle, who has the microphone to get us started.
Thanks so much, Claudette. Thank you very much for the invitation. Hello. Hi. I'm Elle, and I work for a little software company based in Sydney that you might have heard of called Atlassian. I am a content strategist. I should also make it really clear that I do not represent the views of Atlassian. I'm here talking to you as someone who works there, but does not represent the organisation. Thank you, everyone who's watching us on the live screen. So, content strategy. Some of you may have a different idea about what content strategy means to the one that I do. There's been a lot of discussion in the content marketing kind of space around content strategy. For me, it's something probably a little different. I'm thinking about the intersection between customer needs and business drivers and how that is manifest in content or communication. For those of you who are familiar with service design, I think there's a really close alignment with service design and what I do, but again, manifesting content and comms. And so the kind of things that I might be doing is creating an information architecture, but I also might be mapping an ecosystem and understanding how various channels for an organisation or a group of organisations fit together and how those channels, those content channels, meet the needs of users. Of course, at the same time, providing value for the business. So that's one of the things that really defines what I do. In terms of a screw up, I'll share an anecdote with you that I learnt a lot from. I was working for a very large employer, in fact the largest employer in the Southern Hemisphere, the Department of Education and Training, and we were rolling out a big digital project. We were really excited. We had a big development team working, plus content people, plus a whole range of other team members, and we were really excited and we knew we were going to develop something and deliver something really amazing. And I was part of a content coaching initiative, but I was also part of an initiative that went out to all the people who are going to be using this new system, this new content management system, this bespoke content management system that we were going to build, to tell everyone how exciting it was and when it was coming and how it was going to affect them. And we did a really, really great job of telling that story. But what happened, as some of you might already be guessing, is that the delivery of that product was delayed. And it wasn't delayed by a week, it was delayed by 6 months. So we took a really big credibility hit, and I know now I absolutely will not set a deadline for delivery or really even articulate in a very concrete way features or services that are coming forward unless I really I've seen it in prod. And that can be quite challenging for a communication, from a communication perspective, but I learned that lesson the hard way, and I will not be doing that again.
Oh my gosh, how do I follow that? That was like the best intro ever. Hi guys, thanks Claudette for having us and me. I'm Justine, I'm the social media strategist from Coca-Cola South Pacific. So what that means is that I work with our creative agencies and media agencies to develop all of the campaign activity and the support activity across our 7 brands on our social channels. So that's Coke, Red, Diet Coke, Fanta, Sprite, Powerade, Barista Brothers for Australia and New Zealand. In terms of my biggest screw up, it's really hard thinking about this because you kind of screw up all the time on social media. It's really easy, and luckily there's a delete button. Probably my biggest one was when I posted a personal Instagram photo to the ASOS account, which I used to manage, and went out for brunch and then drinks, and then only realised when someone messaged me. But it was okay because it was my breakfast, so that thing flies on fashion accounts. Thanks.
Wow. Hi guys, thanks Claudette for having me. My name's Jessica. After that, I just build software. What do I love about building software? Well, Aaron Schwartz has a really good quote, right, which is being able to code is kind of like having a superhero. You see the things that are wrong in the world and you get the privilege of being able to say, well, I can fix that. Which is actually kind of how I got in. Like, I was self-taught. I got a ridiculous quote to build something, happened to be sitting in an airport lounge, so downloaded Xcode and the documentation for Objective-C, got onto a long-haul flight and came up with a really, really clunky prototype. My biggest screw-up, I'm just going to read of the room. Can you give me a hands up if you're a startup founder or about to found a startup? Yeah, wicked. Awesome. Okay, cool. Don't do this. So first startup I was ever in, we exited quite well and we exited profitably. Second startup, fueled by quite a bit of hubris, we sat there and, well, I sat there and went, I'll throw in $80,000 for my personal cash. That'll be fine. That's great. We burnt through it. We didn't get product market fit. We were absolutely failing. Like, it was dreadful. It was woeful. And looking back on it, I go, wow, that was really dumb. So I did the only logical thing left when we started to run out of money, and I threw more at it, thinking that would fix the problem. It doesn't work. So that's probably my biggest screw up. If it's broken, walk away.
3 very hard screw-ups to follow. My name is Nick Lembo. I look after communications and what we call business outreach, so essentially business marketing at Yelp. If you guys haven't heard of us, we're an app and a website to find local businesses around you. What I love about creating content, and I think of content in my job quite broadly, because I get to do lots of different things every day, is just the ability to, like Justine said, not really fix anything with software, but more take an idea and bring it to life and actually communicate to customers, existing and potential, through something that you might have had come to you while you were in the shower or watching TV or making your dinner. It's not something that I think existed in a lot of jobs, probably 10 to 15 years ago, unless you were in advertising, so I think that's pretty cool. My biggest screw up, it's actually quite recent, and will rename many people involved quite nameless, but we were had this awesome idea. We were going to go create this really flash video. We were doing it really lean with just a bunch of people. We had all these ideas together. We wrote a script. We got a videographer on board. We were out shooting in New Zealand. Kind of got a first cut back, and we're like, oh, we probably should have sent that to our senior vice president of marketing before we started on that, and then realized that the thing that we thought was really cool and had done for $1,000 and was really lean was going to go nowhere because we hadn't gotten the buy-in of anyone before we started. So that was one for the record books for me.
Alrighty, lucky last. My name's Angus, working for a company called HubSpot. As a bit of a caveat, I don't actually create any content myself, but I do work to bring on new clients with HubSpot. I think myself more as a bit of a strategist. I'm actually called what's an inbound marketing specialist. What I do and what I love about the role that I have is that not creating content myself, but actually helping businesses try and figure out exactly how to produce the right content and how to manage their content funnel in order to attract and convert and close all the right prospects and really drive great traffic digitally online. So yeah, working really closely with a lot of marketing teams all over Asia Pacific. In regards to major screw up, it would have to be startup myself as well. Yeah, burn a lot of cash myself. But I have to say, probably the biggest thing that I could learn out of that screw up was just how carefully you should be selecting your partners when getting things off the ground. Yeah, I saw a lot of nods. Yeah. So yeah, that ended up burning into the ground. Something that I learned. I won't go into detail, of course, but yeah, it's probably one of the tightest, most important relationships you can have at any stage in life if you're really thriving and throwing yourself at a project. So if that relationship isn't good, then think again, or question it, and maybe even walk away, even if it might be the right thing, the right product. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you all so much for that introduction. We can clap everyone. Everyone out at work, so this is fitting because we didn't get a chance to do that yet. So Angus, I suppose I'll start with you because I thought it was very interesting how you mentioned your role as a strategist. How does HubSpot and all of your businesses, for that matter, understand the purpose of content?
The purpose of content? Well, for HubSpot, it's vital. Our founders, actually, we just had our 10th birthday just the other day. So 10 years ago, had a light bulb moment that they both hated the way that they were being marketed to, and that they didn't really agree with the way that they were being marketed to. They were being interrupted all the time. They were seeing ads on TV. Their time was just being interrupted from what they were currently doing. And they suddenly realized, a light bulb went off, and they suddenly realized that whenever they were making a decision or trying to solve a problem, they'd actually go through a process themselves of looking at blog content and looking at reviews and just really digesting a whole array of content, essentially online in particular. So for us, that changed the game. And that is essentially how we now, as ourselves and how we advise our clients to divide out the content strategy, is actually get a really keen idea of exactly who that person is that you're targeting, what we call a persona, and then try and figure out exactly how that person is going to go through a process of decision making. It may not necessarily, a lot of businesses right now focus on what we call the decision stage, which is stuff like case studies and product comparisons and reviews and things like that, which are really targeting people that are right at the end of that decision-making process. Whereas in order to get somebody into your marketing funnel, you really actually need to think far beyond that and actually think about how does actually somebody become aware of the problem that you can end up solving, and start creating content that's going to draw them in from there. Once you have actually acquired a contact or started getting some interest there, you can start creating different content as that person starts making their way down that decision-making funnel. So yeah, really, really vital. It's the core of everything, and yeah.
Did Elle or Justine or Nick, did you have anything to add to how content plays a part in your business and how you understand the purpose of it?
I guess at Coke it's really important everybody knows our brand, so it's really important to keep telling a story that matters in the day and age that we're marketing to the people, to the local market that we're marketing to as well. So from a business perspective, we work, from a social media perspective, I work very closely with the creative agencies from the very top of that funnel to develop those strategies, to understand how our consumers are consuming our product, but also how those who have potentially dropped off from us as a brand, how we can reinvigorate them and our brand within there, make it more relevant to them as well. Yeah, I think, do you have anything to add?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Thank you. So I work at a company that sells product, Jira, Confluence, HipChat. But the content offering that we provide to our customers is really, really important. So while we are not a content company, we are a product company, the whole broad range of content that we offer for customers, and it is very broad. We have 30 plus channels, i.e. websites where people can come and find out more about our products and get help and support. And I think it's particularly important for some of our more technical products, where it's not like it's Gmail where you can intuit by clicking around. It's not a low risk activity where you can just click around and kind of guess what's happening. In some of our more technical products, and especially when you're administering them, for example, connecting Jira with LDAP, you really do need to be sure absolutely what's happening, and you need really awesome help and support. Documentation is part of that. So we really see the help and support documentation as part of our product, and that content is really, really important.
Can I have some of that? Because we use Jira, and I think when I started using Jira as a non-tech person, I was like, can the engineer explain this to me? I don't know what's happening.
I'll sort you out.
Yeah, please. I just had a slightly different perspective, I think, we're obviously much more of a consumer brand. And so one of our real values at its core is helping people find great local businesses around them, find the business, the coffee shop around the corner that they didn't know existed, the yoga class that they never would have gone to otherwise, bring that word of mouth experience online to find places like that. So at the end of the day, anytime we're producing content for consumers, we want to make it crystal clear that A, this is useful to you, and B, that it's actually going to help you either learn how to use the product, or if you already know how to use the product, use it in a way that you hadn't thought of before. So maybe you have never heard of Yelp before. Here's how to get started. If you have, and you've only used it for restaurants, here's how you can also search for accountants or dog walkers or things like that, and just kind of making sure that it's really tied back to the product experience for the consumer.
That's great. I might throw this question over to you, Jess, actually. So we at Legal Vision are having tech classes every couple of weeks, whereby none of us really know anything, and we get in a room and our CTO explains open bracket, B, close bracket. I don't think that's right. So I wanted to ask, I do listen, what role does tech play in helping to create the content and the UX experience? And not only that, but how important is it that your broader team has a basic understanding of HTML or code or dev or what those acronyms even mean?
Right, so twofold. I guess I'll answer the last question first if I could. If you work in a tech startup and you don't understand tech, you should probably Google it pretty quick. If you can't Google it, you should really question your career choices. Not everyone has to be an engineer. I think people get this wrong. I often stand up on stage and I sit there and say, everyone needs to learn how to code. Right? I'm a staunch believer that everyone should learn how to code, because it's quite like knowing how to use Excel now. And it will certainly be a lot more like that in the next decade coming, especially if you work or are trying to build a tech startup. So knowing what HTML is, knowing what CSS is, knowing how to be able to manipulate what you see on a web page or how your content is displayed is pretty critical. Our team are very good with that. They weren't all when I started, and I have a really easy way of fixing that. They come over, they say, hey, can you pull this from the database? And I say no. When you say no to a salesperson like that, it's amazing how quickly they learn how to do it themselves. I'm a little nicer than that in person, but essentially that was the quickest way to get everyone on board. As far as how critical is tech for our content, it's absolutely, like, it's our #1 thing. So we have the pleasure of having a tech team and a marketing team that actually work well together, which I'm learning is actually quite unusual. Sorry, I should go back. I'm the CTO of OneShift and Skilled. Anyone in the room that doesn't know what OneShift and Skilled is, OneShift is a jobs board that has a bit of a matching algorithm behind it. Essentially, it's a much better version of Seek. If you want to use Seek, you shouldn't go and use OneShift. Skilled, on the other hand, is taking jobs in retail and hospitality and it flips it on its head, right? So it sits there and says, instead of putting a job post up and then saying, apply for it, give me your 400 resumes, and then I'll sift through the resumes and then I'll call you, and then we'll get the ball started. We say, well, we know you're a barista we know you're a cafe in Surrey Hills. You probably want baristas. So when you log in, here are a set of baristas who are actually looking for jobs in your area. Here's where they've worked, here's the skills they have. Tell us whether or not you want to speak to them. If you say you want to speak to them, we get in touch for you. We use tech to do that. And obviously we warm it up and then you can just call them. It takes the whole employment thing down from about 5 days to find a barista to one of our customers did it on Sunday in 5.5 minutes. From like literally first sign up to call the candidate to yes, I'm coming in to make a coffee for you was 5 minutes. So that was pretty good. As far as our marketing, I was sitting there on Sunday afternoon and I have this bad habit of watching our analytics. Like I literally watch it live. It's like, oh, this is looking good. Oh, that's fantastic. How did that happen? So the content for that's pretty critical, right? Because not everyone is hiring all the time. So how do you make sure that you've got the right content for people to see at the right time? We also have the pleasure of having, a creepy marketing guy. So our chief marketing officer is just phenomenal. He designed the global strategy for Netflix rollout, and then he rolled it out across APAC, right? Which is great because they didn't spend a cent offline to do that. And we've taken a similar strategy, made it better, because that's what happens, when you iterate. And then we've used that. So we know people's habits inside the app. We know what people are doing, and then based on what landing pages people are going to, we have a good track on, are you a barista? Are you an owner of a coffee shop? And therefore, what content do we need to display? So we do really great deep personalization, and we do that on the content you see on our app. We do that in the ads that we serve you, and we do that in the messaging that we send out across channels. So that's all we do.
Justine and Nick, I might throw this open to you both. So we are streaming on Facebook Live. We have an Instagram account. I think Anthony's tweeting. We have so many different social media accounts now. How do you go about creating content specific and native to that particular audience? What's the process involved, and how critical is it that you understand the user base of that? Could I just throw a post out across all 5, which I've done before, and what are the consequences?
I love how you're just handing it to me.
I had to once again, it's fine.
So I guess it varies dramatically from a big corporation to a startup, but the thing that I would say is that you just have to think about the way that you would use that platform, and you need to understand that you wouldn't necessarily post the same thing that you would on Instagram to Twitter, and the same for Facebook as well. Understanding the audience you're talking to is super important, and that comes with when you're defining the role of the channel. So when you choose that you're going on Instagram, for example, know why you're going on there before you actually create your bio. Play around with it before you start promoting it. Understand what it takes to create that content. Decide what content that's going to be. So you don't have to be as structured as what I would be in having content strategies and content pillars and frequency and media plans. But I guess when just understand it, get a feel for it. It's the same in the same sense that you know, get into a back end and start coding. You've just got to play around with it and know how people are going to react, because it's changing every week. And we have to iterate as a global corporation, and you'll have to do the same as a startup. I think the other thing, in terms of how you go about creating that content, it's hard. It's really hard to be creating like on-point copy and assets for every single channel on a regular basis that resonates with every single person in your audience. It's really bloody hard. But that makes you think about what you're going to post and be mindful. You don't need to be posting every day. You don't need to be matching the frequency of that other brand, because whatever works for your audience. Yes. Whatever works for your brand is why people are following you. So stay true to yourself and stay true to what you can do, because if you go hard and fast and then drop off, that's when people are going to be like, what? Where'd you go? They're signed up to you for a reason, so make sure that you're keeping that true to yourself and true to what your business values are.
A lot of good points. I've been at a marketing conference all day, so my head is just completely buzzing, especially with things about social media. And I saw a talk from a guy from New York who runs essentially branded content for Vice. If you don't know Vice, they're probably the biggest youth-focused media company out there, arguably the best at what they do in that category. And he made a really salient point, which is that if you think you're creating one piece of content and then pushing it out on your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, and just putting up a link to this video from on all of those channels, you need to blow up your playbook and start again. Because the days of people, if you think someone's going to click on your link from your Twitter channel to watch your video on YouTube, it's just not going to happen. With the attention span that people have now, and the way that people use those platforms, you should have consistency of content, but you need to tailor that content to whatever platform you're putting it on. And I think the other point that I would make, which echoes what Justine said, is that there's nothing worse than going on and starting on a platform and then dropping off because you don't have the time or the resources to do it. If your business doesn't need to be on Twitter or on Instagram or on Snapchat or whatever it is, don't go on it. If your customers aren't there, there's no point in going on it, and you're just going to fall off and have an empty, dead zombie account anyway. I follow Tim Cook, Apple CEO, on Twitter, and I follow him, but I think he posts 3 times a month, and it's usually really boring stuff about hey, I'm at the Apple factory, whatever, okay? But Elon Musk is prolific on Twitter, and he's awesome. He's talking about everything from literally the engineering of his rockets all the way through to high-level stuff about the political order they're going to put in place on Mars when they get there in 5 years. Yeah, that's a person I want to follow. So I think your content, that's a really long rambling answer, but your content should match the platform that you're on, and if your customers aren't there, don't go there.
But I think to that point as well, it kind of talks to that it doesn't matter how many followers you have, because if Tim Cook has millions of followers but he only posts 3 times a month or 3 times a year even, those 3 times are going to still resonate with half of those people. But if he was, I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't count your followers, count the way that your content is resonating with your audience. It doesn't matter if you're falling behind your competitor. Don't compare yourself to those, because it might be that your content is actually driving more business or driving more storytelling about your brand. So yeah, just don't compare yourself to others.
I think on top of all this, it's like, you know, you can't expect that when you do publish that content that it is going to be relevant to your entire audience. You've really got to actually break it down into, like I mentioned before, your persona. So whether or not you're a B2C business or a B2B, there's going to be different types of people, like an individual really, that actually has a different set of needs and a different set of challenges or goals in their life that is really going to hit home with the product or service that you're providing. As an example, HubSpot, we service businesses from very small to medium to very large. And the type of content that we produce is actually broken up into a whole range of different segments or personas that are very specific to those actual individuals, or actual names for these people, and the challenges they face as an individual. No doubt as well, across different channels, that content is going to be different. Email marketing may message out in email may be different to something that you need to get out in Facebook versus Instagram. But again, it is really important then to understand that within those different personas or segments, there is actually everybody within that audience is actually at a different stage of that decision-making process. Some are only just getting aware of your brand and the problem that you can solve, and some are ready to go. Some may need a very high-level, enterprisey kind of case study. Others may need just a gentle, warming kind of high-level, you know, you'll be all right and this is going to be great type of message. But it's all still drawing back to the same business and the same product or the same service. Yes.
Can I just add one last thing? My background is journalism, so I worked at the ABC for about 6 or 7 years as a radio producer, and that gives you a bit of background and context to who I am. If I think, and so I probably have a little bit of a bias towards that commercial hard sell without an articulated value. And I tell you that to give you a bit of background to the story I'm going to tell you now. So when I think about media, the soap, daytime TV, it was many of you will know the story. It was kind of created in order to literally sell soap. So that the transaction rather there was, we're going to give you something entertaining to watch, and in exchange for that, we would like you to look at our product. And Google's a beautiful example of that. They're one of the biggest advertising companies in the world. But their exchange is not entertainment, it's function. It's like, we'll give you search, or we'll give you Gmail or whatever, and in exchange, can you please look at our ads? And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I really want to emphasize that there needs to be a good value exchange. If you're wanting to, if you're wanting the attention of people, of customers, so people you want to engage with your product, your content, or whatever, then you need to give them something of value in return. I hate ads, but I'm thinking right now of an ad that I absolutely love. Have you seen the Cookie Monster, the Siri Cookie Monster ad? I watched